Hey designers! This tutorial video is going to show you how to create your very own double exposure portrait. I provided you with two practice images, which are the portrait of the young man and a picture of a galaxy. And I'm going to show you step by step how to bring these photos into Photopea and combine them and adjust the settings in order to create that double exposure effect. So right now I have Photopea open on my computer. And remember that there are a few things that you want to make sure to do in order to help Photopea run as quickly and efficiently as possible on your device. The first thing you want to make sure you're doing is you should be using Google Chrome. So Google Chrome seems to be the browser that we have the most success with Photopea. So make sure you're using Google Chrome. And then make sure that you have all other tabs and windows and programs on your Chromebook totally closed out. So close out of any other open programs. The only tabs that you want to have open right now are Photopea, this tutorial video, and our class Zoom call. Close everything else out. That way Photopea can access all the bandwidth on your device, and it's going to help it run a lot quicker. Sometimes Photopea does crash. So we want to make sure that as we are creating, we're always in the habit of saving really often. That way, if something happens and Photopea freezes up or crashes, you don't lose a ton of work. Maybe you'll only lose a step or two, but you'll still have most of your projects saved. So save often so you don't lose your work. All right, so we're ready to begin. And the first thing that we want to do is go up to the top left-hand corner where you see the word File. Go ahead and click on File and click on the first option, which is New. We're going to create a new project. The first thing we should do is name our new project. So where you see name, you can highlight whatever's there currently and delete it. And then type in the words double exposure practice. This is our practice project before our main project. So we're going to name this double exposure practice. We want our width and height to both be at 1000 pixels. So make sure that under width and height, you've got a 1 followed by 3 zeros. And make sure that you have this option for pixels selected. There's also options for a percentage, millimeters, or inches, but we're going to focus on pixels today. Your DPI is just fine if it says 72 and your background is white. So once your settings match what you see right here, you can go ahead and click Create. Now we're ready to actually start to bring in our practice images. So we're going to create a new layer, and there are two different ways that we can create a new layer. The first thing we can do is come over to our Layers panel, which is on the right-hand side where my cursor is right now. And you can click on this little icon in the bottom right-hand corner that looks like a little square or like a little post-it note with the corner folded up. If you click on that, a new layer is going to be created. Your other option is you can come to the top of your screen where you see the word layer, and you can go to New and select a new layer that way as well. Either way works the same, just two different options for you. I usually use this little layer icon at the bottom of my layers panel because it's just a little bit quicker and easier. So create a new layer, and the first thing we want to do is bring in our portrait image. So to add that picture into our Photopea document, we're going to go up to File, and we want to choose Open and Place. We're going to open a file and place it onto this layer. So you're going to have to search through your files. They should be located in your downloads. So find your downloads, and then you should be able to locate the portrait image. Go ahead and click Open, and that portrait image is going to be dropped right into your Photopea document. Now, you can see I want to resize this because I want him to take up most of the space here in my design. So one thing I want to show you is if I just start to click and drag, look how my image is getting all stretched out and distorted. That is a no-go. We don't want our image to be distorted like that. So if that happens, just press Control-Z. That's your shortcut for undo. And try one more time. So you want to make sure that you have this top tool, which is the move tool. The shortcut for the move tool is the letter V. So you can press the letter V on your keyboard, and then we're going to try again to transform this image. The word transform just means to resize. When we're ready to resize an image, we can use the shortcut of Control T. And Control T is going to bring up these little squares around the corner of your design or of your picture. And that's going to let you kind of click and drag to resize. So before you click on any of those squares, press and hold the Shift button on your keypad. That's going to lock the dimensions of whatever photo you have selected. So it's not going to let me change the height or width, which means it's not going to get stretched out. So again, the way that I did that was I pressed Control T. That's going to show these boxes so I can resize my image or transform my image. And then press and hold Shift, and then drag from a corner while you're holding on to that Shift button. And that is going to keep your dimensions of your photo locked in place. You can hit Enter to place your photo once you've got it sized correctly and put in the right spot. And now we're finished adding our portrait. So now we're ready to add the image of our galaxy that we're going to combine with this portrait image. So we're going to repeat that same process of creating a new layer. Remember, you can click on this little icon in the bottom right corner, the little square. So here's my new layer. And I'm going to right away go up to File and Open and Place. Again, I'm going to go into my files and find the image of the galaxy. So this file I titled with the word galaxy, and you should find that in your downloads. Click on Open, and it's going to place that image of the galaxy right on top of our portrait. This is good. We want this to kind of cover that up right now. We want this to fill up the whole workspace, our whole design. So once again, I can already see here, I've got my squares showing up so that I can resize. So all I need to do is press and hold Shift before I click on a corner to drag. So I'm just holding that Shift key as I click and drag. That way my image doesn't get stretched out or distorted. Once I have it sized the way that I want it to, and I have it placed where I want it to be, I can click Enter. That's just going to put that image down. It's going to place it. So now we've brought in both of our images. And I'm actually realizing over here that when we imported those photos and placed them into Photopea, it created a new layer for us. So these are actually extra layers that we don't need. You can really easily delete a layer just by clicking on it in your Layers panel and just pressing the Backspace or Delete button on your keypad. You can also click on this little trash can icon in the bottom right-hand corner, but it's usually easier just to click on the layer and press Delete on your keyboard. All right. The next thing that we need to do is rasterize our images. So we downloaded these images and dropped them into Photopea, and we need to rasterize them, which pretty much just creates a pixelized image that we can edit in Photopea. So you can right-click on the image, or I'm sorry, on the layer, and choose the option to rasterize. On a Chromebook, you're probably going to press and hold Alt, and then you'll see when you click while you're holding Alt, you'll see these options pop up, and you can click Rasterize. Or you can click on the layer. So for this galaxy layer, I'm just going to click and highlight, and you can come up to the top of Photopea, click on Layer, and there's also the option here to rasterize. So one more time, you can either press and hold Alt, click on the layer. That's going to bring up, it's like right-clicking on your Chromebook. You can choose rasterize right here, or click on the layer, go to the top of your Photopea panel, and click on Layer and Rasterize here. So two different options again for you. Now we've rasterized our layers, and we're ready to start actually combining our images. So right now we're going to focus on the portrait layer, which means we want to hide the galaxy for now. One thing that's really cool about layers is that there's this tiny little eyeball icon, and when you click on that, you can toggle it on and off, and this will hide your layer temporarily. So it's great as you're editing and experimenting in your design. You can click layers to hide them or make them visible again, and this allows you to kind of work on separate layers independently. So right now, we only want to have the eyeball icon showing for our portrait layer. The galaxy is hidden for now. We're going to use our magic wand tool to select the background, just the white space behind our portrait. We're going to delete that area. So to use our magic wand tool, we can actually just press the letter W on our keyboard. You can see over here that highlighted this little icon, which looks like a little magic wand. And one thing to notice is that under a lot of tools, you'll have some different options. So if you right click, again, you might have to just press and hold Alt and then click. There's a couple of different tools that do some different things that are built into the magic wand tool. You want to make sure that you have this option selected, which is the magic wand with the little sparkle at the end. So now we have that tool selected, but we want to take a look at the options for our tool. So we're going to look at the options bar right above just the top of our workspace. We want to set the tolerance for a number right around 20. And the tolerance, what this means is when you click on a certain thing with the magic wand tool, it's going to select similar colors. So if you set this tolerance to about 20, it's going to select colors that are kind of within 20 different shades of whatever you click. So if you select a lower tolerance number, it's going to select less colors. But if you select, or if you create a higher tolerance level, then it's going to select more colors at once. You'll kind of see that as you experiment more with the tool. So my tolerance is set to 20. And feathering, this has to do with the edge of what you select. So I would set the feather to maybe 3 pixels. And this is just going to create an edge around what you select that's a little bit soft. So instead of being a really harsh line, it's just going to kind of feather in the edge of your selection. So once you have your feather and your tolerance set, you can go ahead and just click on the background of your design, somewhere in that white space around the outside of the portrait, and you should see these little tiny dancing ants around your selection. So this is telling you that you have something selected in Photopea. If I zoom in, maybe you can see those dancing ants a little bit easier. If you're in your zoom tool, you can always really quickly reset your view by clicking on Fit the Area. And so the magic wand tool did a pretty great job of selecting what I wanted it to, but I'm not sure if you can see this spot right here. It selected a little bit more than I wanted. So I'm going to go back to my magic wand tool by clicking on W. And all of my settings are still the same, but I want to delete this little tiny bit right here. So there's these 4 different circles across the top. And if you click on this option right here, it's going to subtract from what you are selecting. So if you just kind of hover over the top, hopefully you can see there that it's telling me subtract. And if you watch really closely, right down here on his collar, if I click right there, oh, it got rid of too much. So let me just go back and try again. I'm going to choose my normal option for the magic wand tool, which is going to be the second one right here. It says Unite. So I'm going to click one more time in the background, and I'll tell you what, I'm just going to move on because it's such a small detail. I'm not too worried about it right now. So I've got my background selected, and what I want to do is just press delete because I want to remove the background from my portrait. It doesn't look any different right now, but the reason is because I still have my background visible. So what you can do is go back over to your panel, your layers panel, and click on the eyeball next to background. Now you'll see that checkerboard, and this is Photopea telling you that there's nothing there in the background. Anytime you see a checkerboard, gray and white checkerboard, it's just telling you that it's empty space within your design. So now we've removed our background. And what we want to do is we still have that selected. Hopefully you still have that background area with the dancing ants around it. And if you don't, you can just select your magic wand tool again and click again so that you have the background selected. We want to select the inverse or the opposite of the background, which would mean we are selecting our person or our portrait. The way we can do that is by going up to the options bar at the top and clicking on select and inverse. It's just going to give us the opposite selection. And so now it may not look like it on the screen here, but I should have my portrait selected. So if you did that select inverse, then you should be good to go. So the very next thing you want to do, so you don't want to let go of that selection, is that you want to click on the top layer with the galaxy. Go ahead and turn on that eyeball so that you can view that again. You can see this galaxy image now. And what you want to do is just right click on this galaxy layer and choose this option for clipping mask. So when you create a clipping mask, it's just going to kind of paste whatever image you have in that layer onto the selection in the layer underneath it. So if you can think back here, we selected the background to delete it. Then we selected the inverse so that our portrait was selected. And then we came up to our galaxy layer, right-clicked, and selected clipping mask. So that was how we added this image on top of our portrait. Now, right now, all we see is the galaxy with the outline of our person. So the way that we can see both images at the same time is by changing the opacity on the layer. So on our galaxy layer, while we have that highlighted and our eyeball is turned on so we can see it, go right above it to where you see the word opacity. So right up here. Right now it's at 100%, which means it just looks like a normal picture. We can see it. It's not transparent at all. We want to change this opacity to something around 60%. You can change that number. You can make it a little higher or a little lower if you'd like to. But placing your opacity around 60% is going to make the image a little bit transparent. Now we can kind of see our portrait underneath, which is great. So we're already most of the way finished. But what we want to do is we want to adjust our portrait just a little bit so that we can see the features in his face a little bit more clearly. So we're going to go up to image. And first we want to click on that portrait layer because we want to edit the settings of the portrait photo. So click on your portrait layer and you're going to go up to image and adjustments and curves. So again, click on your portrait layer, image, adjustments, and curves. This is a great little panel that you can use to change some of the settings on a photo. So by clicking and dragging on these curves, you can see that it's going to change some of the contrast. It's going to change just kind of the colors of the image. And so you can really click around, drag around until you like the way the image is looking. And this is really just your personal preference. So we don't want it to be too dark. We don't want it to be too light. We want to be able to see some shadows, to see some highlights, and see some of the details in the face. I'm pretty happy with that right there. But I feel like I want to see my galaxy a little bit more. So I'm going to come back up and I'm going to change my opacity to 70. That way I can see it's a little bit darker. The image is a little bit less transparent. And I think this is a pretty good balance of seeing the portrait of the person and seeing the galaxy shining through at the same time. So we're pretty much finished with our portrait here. We've created the double exposure image. Now we just want to look at our background. So you can choose whatever background color you'd like. You can notice though on the layer for our background, there's a little lock icon. And we need to unlock that so that we can actually edit the layer. So you can lock a layer if you want to, like if you're finished editing it and you don't want to change it anymore, you can lock a layer and that'll keep you from accidentally editing it. A lot of times the background layer will automatically be locked. So you can click to unlock it, and now you can go in and change that background color. So it's up to you what color you want to use. We're going to drop a color in with the paint bucket tool, and this shortcut is the letter G. The reason for that is it's actually underneath the gradient tool. So you can put in a gradient, or you can use that paint bucket tool. I'm going to stick with the paint bucket. And the way I can change my color of whatever, whatever I'm dropping in the background, at the very bottom of your tools panel, so here's your tools panel, the very bottom left-hand corner, you'll see these color boxes. You want to double click on the box on top. And this is where you can, click around, drag around, and choose whatever background color you want to use. Maybe I'll use like a dark purple for this one. And if your background is selected in your layers panel, and you've got that paint bucket tool selected as well, you should be able to just click and drop in the color. Now it's not showing up here, and the reason why is because my eyeball icon on the layer is not turned on yet. So I'm going to click on that, and look, I noticed that my purple background is not showing still. So there's one other thing I need to do, and I can tell what it is because if I look in my layers panel, I can see the outline of the person, the outline of the portrait in purple. And so the paint bucket is only dropping paint into my selection right now. So see over here, I've still got my dancing ants. I still have that person selected. So all I need to do is deselect. Go ahead and press Control D. Control D is going to let go of our selection. And now I can try one more time to just click into my background with my paint bucket tool. And that's going to put the color throughout the whole layer. I don't know if I love the dark purple because I can kind of see like this lighter edge now. So I'm going to experiment and change this to maybe like a light purple and try again. And I like that a lot better. So I'm pretty happy with my design right now. At this point, it's all just about fine tuning. So you can go back into any layer and kind of adjust things one more time if you'd like to. I want to see a little bit more contrast in my portrait. So if I want to change those levels again, the different, like kind of the filter on the image, you can do that by going up to layer, image, and adjustments and curves. So again, click on that portrait layer, image, adjustments, and curves. Then you can go in and kind of adjust one more time if you need to, get a little bit more contrast, make things a little bit brighter or darker. And when you're happy with your finished design, then you're ready to save. We're going to save this as a Photoshop document because that's going to save the layers that we created. So save as a Photoshop document. That way you can always open this back up and you can use those layers to edit your design just like usual. If you export this as like a JPEG or a PDF, it's going to flatten your layers and the layers won't exist anymore. It's just going to be the flat picture that you created. So for today, let's go to File and Save as a PSD. That way I can take a look at your layers. Just download that. And that's what you're going to upload to the Canvas assignment for this practice activity. So upload a Photoshop document once you're finished with your work. And congratulations, you have successfully created a double exposure portrait image in Photopea. You've created your first project. Next week, you're going to be able to create your very own original image. You're going to use your own portrait of either yourself, a friend, or a family member. And you're going to combine that with any other image that you'd like to in order to send some kind of message or tell a story. So, congratulations again. Fantastic job if you've successfully created your very first double exposure portrait image.